A mistake, but also not a mistake. We put it on subtle Filipino traits. There was one day we were shooting, and suddenly the sky turned green, and there were tornado sirens.
Thanks everyone for watching. I am here with the writer and director of Everything Stays, Cole Bacani. Cole, thank you so much for allowing us to share this with our audience.
Yeah, thanks for having me on your channel.
So first off, this is obviously a short film that's very, personal to you, and is essentially an autobiography in a sense, right?
Yep.
What motivated you to, write this and put this together, and then also involving your actual family?
I wrote this 6 years ago when I first graduated from high school and kind of just kept it in my back pocket. But one thing that made this short film finally happen was COVID. Ironically. So I graduated 2020 right into the pandemic, and none of my friends, who are also all filmmakers, had jobs, and all of my family was at home on lockdown. I thought it was the perfect time to actually make this film because I could convince all of them to spend like a month in Illinois to make this with my family. And because it's so personal and it's about this really tight-knit, like huge Filipino extended family, I knew my cousins were the only ones who could, portray that chemistry without having to like hire child actors and make them like live together and become like family.
I wanted to ask too, you're bringing up and coming and professional actors and professional crews to back to your hometown. What was it like for your crew and your cast to kind of intermingle with your family? And then this is also probably the first time your family is kind of seeing you in this professional setting, right? Like, how was that whole interaction?
It was honestly just so much fun, and I think really cool for everybody. This was like the height of COVID kind of, so everyone had been like isolating for months and months and months and months, and then suddenly we're in this group approved by City Council in Naperville.
Oh, nice.
So like this is honestly like one of the happiest times in my life so far. I knew it was really important to make sure my cousins felt comfortable in front of a giant crew, because none of them have ever been on camera outside of me running around with a little flip video camera.
Yeah, and you had that footage in your credits.
Yeah, right? Used a lot of real family footage from that time period. We had so many Zooms like every week where all my cousins hopped on with my crew and we played games just so the crew could get to know my cousins and so my cousins could get to know the crew and the other actors. So we had a ton of those Zoom hangouts like leading up to actual shooting. Then for actual filming, we spent like 2 weeks just hanging out, the crew and my cousins.
Wow.
Because we had to quarantine together, and also it was like perfect because that forced us to be a giant family.
So when you're pushing casting on this short film, you're casting somebody that's portraying you and your likeness, and then some like kind of real characters in your life. How was that process of finding those characters and those actors and then weaving them into essentially your real family? First
off, Nicole, who plays my ex-girlfriend in the short film, I've worked with her since I first got to USC, and we've kind of been like creative partners in that sense. So I knew immediately she had to be in this big film I'm doing. Sari, who plays Sophia in the film, Gabe's cousin who kind of really wants him to stay. She's kind of a combination of multiple people in my life, and I also didn't have to do an audition process for her. I was DPing a pilot that she was on, and saw her crying in a scene and instantly knew that she would be a perfect fit for this really sad Filipino-American film. And since then, Sari and I have made a million projects together. A difficult character to cast was definitely Ryan, who plays Gabe, who's technically me in some ways. That was the longest part of the casting process. We put casting calls everywhere. A mistake, but also not a mistake, because this is how we found him. We put it on subtle Filipino traits, which is like a Filipino subsection of subtle Asian traits. And I put my actual email out there.
Oh no.
So like I put it out there, and then I woke up and it had like 1,000 likes and comments, and I had like 500 emails of people interested, and I was just like, I should have made an email before I did this. Ryan's reactions are just like so spot on, and also really carry a lot of the emotion in the film, even more than the lines he delivers. I feel like his reaction to like a lot of the family stuff and drama just keeps the film really grounded and like in his point of view. All the kids are my actual cousins, and I mentioned this before, like there's no group of people who can come close to creating that chemistry that they already have.
And looking back, the reason we know each other obviously is through the Wong Fu Productions internship. So we actually had Cole as an intern probably right after you kind of having these feelings. So like looking back too, I remember like having conversations with you about coming out to LA, and also at the time you were interning with Jubilee Media. What kind of influences did you take from working with us here at Wong Fu, and then also Jubilee, who are also short film specialists on YouTube?
First of all, it's super crazy that I'll be sharing a short film on your guys' platform. It's mind-blowing and super honored. And yeah, a lot of the stuff that you guys made actually made me feel like I could make shorts like that too. And that you guys definitely paved the path for Asian American filmmakers like me to be able to share stories like this to a whole huge audience. I feel like I learned a lot more outside of film school through like working at Wong Fu and Jubilee Media, because a lot of like USC is like learning how to produce and like dealing with Hollywood and stuff like that. So a lot of the like actual storytelling and technical skills I learned from you guys, and a lot from Jubilee Media too, because you guys are generally like smaller companies and like big studios in Hollywood. So you guys let me kind of explore post-production, production, pre-production. I got hands-on in every department.
And Jason at Jubilee was an executive producer on this short film. How much of like the Jubilee team was involved in this production?
Yeah, it was pretty much just Jason. Jason's been super supportive of everything I've made since I've met him. This was obviously the biggest short film I've ever set out to make, because flying a whole group of people out to Illinois, working with a cast that's bigger than like 3 or 4 people. So Jason really kind of helped get the ball rolling.
And what would you say are like the biggest differences between shooting a short film in Illinois and shooting in LA?
So we shot in the Chicago suburbs, which is even more different than shooting in Chicago alone. But I feel like in Naperville, Illinois, the most suburban neighborhood I've ever lived in, was very, very different. And I think in a lot of ways it was actually easier. I knew, because I grew up going to a lot of the locations that we ended up shooting at. A lot of the people that we had to go through to get permits have never really had people filming in Naperville before, so they're just like, oh yeah, sure, like we can sign this piece of paper for you guys to run around with the camera.
Awesome.
We did get kicked out of a couple locations even though we had permits, because there was kind of that lack of understanding of like what we were actually doing. Like I think a lot of the places we got permits from thought we were just going to be like high school kids showing up with like little DSLRs, but then we show up with grip trucks and a giant Alexa Mini and our anamorphic lenses and like a whole camera team, a whole art team, and then we get stopped and they're like, whoa, what's going on? Like, we're making a movie, we have a permit. And then they're like, I don't think the permit's for that. I'm like, it is.
They're just expecting like a little YouTube setup, maybe, maybe like a TikTok.
Exactly. Right. But I think another challenge, which is kind of unexpected, was weather, because you guys don't have tornadoes here in LA.
I don't think I've ever experienced a tornado.
There was one day we were shooting and suddenly the sky turned green and there were tornado sirens. So everyone had to quickly get into cars, and like actors and crew were all over the place just trying to shelter as fast as possible.
Oh my gosh.
And that was the same day we also got kicked out of our location. So we got kicked out of our location, had to find a park that matched the first park we were at. Then once we finally found that second park, is when the sky turned green and the tornado sirens went off, and we had to shelter in place for 3 hours.
Jeez.
And then on top of that, I'm sure everyone here has seen the film by now, but on top of that, after those 3 hours of sheltering in place, getting kicked out, we filmed my grandma passing away, that scene. That was by far the craziest day I've ever had in my filmmaking experience. And I owe a lot of that craziness to just shooting in Illinois.
Would you? I'm like, do I ask, like, would you do that again? But I think
I would do it again. It was fun.
And now that you've gone through this entire process of writing it, going into pre-production and getting ready, filming, editing, going through a full festival run, I'm sure you as a person changed throughout each step. You know, like you writing this is probably a completely different person than you now. Can you tell us about like how, you know, that evolution went for you?
So it's funny because sometimes I talk about how it would have been a very different film if I made it right when I wrote it, because the film is pretty true to like how I was feeling and how my cousins were feeling towards each other. It was really hard to say goodbye, and like there's a lot of confusion and just anger about the fact that I had to leave to go you know, chase my dream. As cheesy as that sounds, it was really hard. So I feel like a few of the early drafts of the script were like a little more angry in a way. 4 years later, you know, after that time passes between me and my cousins kind of splitting, that anger kind of turned more into just like missing them and wishing I had more time with them. So the script now definitely feels a little more nostalgic and like apologetic in a way too, because and I think there's a lot more understanding in this current version versus like where it started, because I do write my scripts starting with a feeling and usually a piece of dialogue too, a piece of really real dialogue, and I kind of build off of a feeling versus like starting beginning, middle, end, or like writing it chronologically. The main emotion behind the script definitely changed a ton, and I think making it much later after the actual falling out was a good thing.
And how is your family receiving it now that it's complete from the early stages to now?
So obviously we submitted the film to like a ton of the big festivals too, and we got rejected from a ton of them, just part of the game. But like I wasn't even upset about those rejections. I was more upset that like COVID kept pushing the premiere for my family, because if this didn't get to any festivals, I don't really care. Like I just wanted my family to see it, so it was really important for me to show it to them, and they saw it before it had its world premiere at Palm Springs. And as soon as it cut to black and the credits rolled and then the credits finished, turned on the lights, and like all my cousins, all my aunts and uncles, there's like a room full of like 40 people and like 10 people on Zoom. It was just dead silent.
Oh no.
There were no claps, but I looked out and like there were lots of tears. And then eventually everyone started slowly speaking up, and everyone really loved it. Very cathartic for all of us.
Now that it's kind of run its full course,
yeah.
What are you hoping that, you know, a viewer here on YouTube would take from this short film?
I think the message I'd want viewers to take away from the film is the same message I wanted to give to my family, which is just like, your memories are going nowhere, no matter how far you go, no matter how much people change or whoever leaves and doesn't come back. Like, those memories are kind of untouchable, and you can always go back to them.
Well, that's a terrific message, and thank you again, Cole, for allowing us to share this film with our audience. And while we have our audience here, is there any lasting message you wanted to give them, or where can we find you, and how can our audience support you on your next steps?
Currently just working on a lot more short films. Actually, that crew from Everything Stays, we formed our own little production company, and we have around like 10 short films, all kind of in post-production right now.
Oh, wow.
All very different genres, and you'll find them all over the place. Hopefully we'll have a website up soon. But outside of that, working on turning Everything Stays into a feature.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks again for watching. If you guys want to support Cole and see everything he's working on, make sure to check out the links in the description below.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for supporting this short film. Wongfu Presents is a way for us to support other filmmakers, so if you're interested in submitting your short film for consideration, be sure to check out the description below. And also, be sure to check out the other films in the Wongfu Presents playlist. Hope you enjoy.